When it comes to Zelda games with a great list of dungeons, two main criteria come to mind. Plenty of dungeons, and of these many dungeons there is a massive variety of themes to accompany them that would set them apart from their fellow temples. Now some Zelda games have an abundance of diversification between each of their dungeons, but they lack the quantity aspect before the game comes to an end. Others manage to score a record high amount of dungeons, but their themes tend to repeat. Now there are a few Zelda games that manage to hit the nail right on the head and check off both of these categories. But none have perfected this formula at such a level, quite like Twilight Princess. This one starts out looking like a miserable fire dungeon. Hot, fuzzy air, and what seems like a maze of cages. But fortunately, once you get past the entrance to the Goron mines, some more color gets introduced, and some of the more intricate details of the temple get revealed, like gates, cranes, bridges, and most importantly, magnets. You have used your iron boots to walk through strong winds, sink to the bottom of lakes, hell, even win sumo wrestling fights against the beefy Gorons. But have you ever, in your wildest of wet dreams, ever thought that one day you might just use those iron boots of yours to walk up some motherfucking walls? Or on ceilings? Or even launch across chasms? If you did, then give Nintendo a call because they definitely need your ideas for the Breath of the Wild sequel. The only complaint that I have with the wall walking is that it's very time consuming because you walk so damn slow. I know it makes sense because they're heavy and they're stuck to the magnetic paths, but for gameplay, it's kind of a drag. Specifically in that one room where you navigate the maze on the roof. Another plus to this dungeon is the inside-outside element to its rooms. I love it when levels do this, especially fire dungeons. It gives you that nice breath of fresh air and actually shows you a grand layout of the temple and what you are trying to accomplish, other than just simple room to room. It makes playing this dungeon a lot more interesting. I know I've said this before, but the first dungeons in Zelda games always seem to struggle a bit. This is partly because of it either being almost a tutorial-like dungeon, or it is just lacking substance and items because, hey, it's the beginning of your adventure. You have to start somewhere. And where is this, you might ask? Well, focus on what you already have. In this case, it's the music, design, and atmosphere. Music, design, and atmosphere are always great topics to focus on. When in doubt, always gravitate to the music, design, and atmosphere, son. And the Forest Temple does just that. A deep woods theme with a dark environment that requires the use of your newly acquired lantern to light the way and melt those pesky spiderwebs in order to progress further and save the monkeys, who in return can help you cross gaps that you can't jump across yourself. This is a nice rare add-on that actually rewards the player for helping others, which makes it seem like less of a tedious task, or at least it would if you didn't have to backtrack like 3 to 5 times in order to save them all. Because you need to, in order to get to the boss. All 8 monkeys. It's at this point of the temple where I start to get a little bit impatient. But at least the boomerang is put to good use while you backtrack. The Lakebed Temple is a really cool place. Located deep at the bottom of Lake Hylia, this water wheel powered level uses the flow of water to generate its many moving platforms that lead you to other parts of the dungeon. However, when you enter it, there is minimal movement, if any at all, which means it's up to you to power it up. Now this is a really neat mechanic that is very fun to do. The only problem is that trying to get past all those water wheels made navigation in this temple frustrating as all hell, and has had me spitting enough fire on several different occasions that the entire temple's water supply itself would have trouble trying to extinguish it. If it was annoying navigating this map at the best of times, just wait until you have to do it underwater. I'm not sure why, but doing things beneath dihydrogen monoxide just amplifies irritation. Lakebed does gain some serious points for its atmosphere and music though. It has a beautiful color scheme that blends very nicely with its architecture, and its music theme that resonates throughout this eerily empty structure will definitely give you a feeling of solitude, which is right up my alley. The final dungeon of Twilight Princess. No new item, no mini-bosses, just one last push to victory. The Hail Mary Temple. Hyrule Castle is designed to do one thing. Slay all that remain of the enemy. And that, you most certainly do. Whether it's the random jobbers that flood you outside of the castle in the courtyard, the aerial foes on top of the castle walls, or the darknuts that are strewn around every corridor. It's an evil monster fire sale, and everything must go. That's all that Hyrule Castle really needs to be. But does it stop there? Hell no! There's little tidbits of puzzles and content scattered all over this dungeon. Basically everything that you have done so far in the game, you will do in this temple, with the exception of fishing. You got the wolf flank senses, every item you've acquired so far, and even a cameo cutscene with your friends from Telma's Bar. Top that off with an eerily empty Hyrule Castle music theme, and the solid rainstorm outside with no music at all, and we have ourselves an atmosphere that is purely ethereal. What more could you possibly want?
Yes, we know.
When I picture the layout of Zelda games such as Twilight Princess, I think of the Fused Shadow dungeons and the Mirror Shard dungeons. But I often forget about the segue storyline connecting dungeons, such as the Arbiters Grounds. It's not deliberate, but it always somehow slips my mind. And to be quite honest, it really shouldn't. The Arbiters Grounds is the definition of a classic Zelda temple. It's loosely based off of the design of the Forest Temple from Ocarina of Time. At least, the first part is anyway. Which, from that statement alone, should be a clear indication that this place is going to be a treat. The temple is packed with substance, being the first dungeon that you can willingly change to and from your wolf form to take advantage of some of the many puzzles and secrets of this ancient prison. The atmosphere just drips from every crevice and shadow that lurks in the darkness. And some of the monsters are just downright nightmare-inducing. Whether it's the screams of the Redeads, or the invisible ghoul rats that cling to your body in secret, the Arbiters Grounds will have you reciting prayers in order to get you psyched up enough to go through it.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Because I carry a big stick, and I'm the meanest motherfucker in the valley.
In fact, its reputation as a horror dungeon is so high that when the item that you acquire from this place turns out to be a Beyblade, the Arbiters Grounds doesn't even lose any of its credibility. Not only that, it actually incorporates this top, enough to see it as a normal item for the environment. Now that's a statement. The first time I played this level, I hated it. I got lost, I ran in circles, I had no idea where to go, died over and over, which made me go back to the last door I entered, which I had no idea where that was, making me even more lost and run in more circles, which ultimately led to more deaths and more frustration, all amplified by the irritating music and the sounds of those ugly bird body, human head abominations of the Uka. But that was before, and now after a few playthroughs, I have not only figured out how to properly play this dungeon and navigate it well, but also to pay attention to my surroundings and observe the subtle details of this temple. The city in the sky is actually a quite beautiful place when you sit back and take it all in. Up in the clouds with the fresh air at every turn, the music is even somewhat therapeutic, before it gets repetitive quickly. And the white walls and pillars give off a vibe that make the city in the sky feel as if it was at one time an extremely sacred structure of great importance. But as for the gameplay elements, this dungeon not only uses its residents to your advantage to glide around, but also houses an item that you have already received earlier in the game. Deja vu, maybe? A glitch in the Matrix, perhaps? Nope, just another claw shot. To be honest, I was severely disappointed when I seen this. But then, it clicked. Now I have a second one. This is how the claw shots were destined to be, and it made the city in the sky so much sweeter. The Palace of Twilight is a very mystical place. Outside of the temple is absolutely breathtaking. The architecture of its buildings, surrounded by the dark clouds and the beautiful golden pink sky, is so aesthetically pleasing. Even the music is incredible. The inside of the palace may be considered by some to be a little bit more dull and bland, but I come to think of it as clean and massive. I mean, it is a royal palace after all. Sometimes no decoration is good decoration. And this dungeon is one of those exceptions. Focusing more on the tone of the dungeon and how different it is from the normal world we live in is all the decoration you need. Plus, there are designs that are sketched on the walls if you know where to look for them. Some of them even glow a bright neon color for those of you who are
fucking blind.
The Palace of Twilight kind of takes after Hyrule Castle in a type of semi-final dungeon to wrap up the Zant part of the story, with mainly the same concept. Zant tries to throw everything he has at you to try to slow you down, including multiple phantom Zants, multiple Zant masks, evil crystal fog, and of course, the Zantans, which provide not one, but two extremely fretful puzzles involving the souls. Now the souls are the main energy source of the Twilight, and in a way, your brand new dungeon item. Infusing its golden light into the Master Sword allows you to cut through the evil crystal fog that Zant has laid. This was kind of an underwhelming item here. There could have been several more items that could have replaced it, like the mirror shield for example. Could you imagine the types of things that could have been done with the mirror shield in this dungeon involving the soul light? Endless possibilities. But that was a minor detail. You won't find me complaining as I climb up floor by floor, cutting through the fog that Zant laid, while he helplessly waits at the top, counting down his remaining minutes left as king. No wonder he threw such a hissy fit when we finally got to him. Now we all know how awesome the entrance to the Temple of Time was in this game, and there's no doubt that it tilted the bias scale and got you in a fantastic mood to play through this dungeon. Not sure if this was deliberate, but it was absolute genius. Now that you have this epic feeling, destroying Lizalfos and other random jobbers in this temple suddenly becomes insanely fun. And just to put the whipped cream and cherry on top, when you're finished slaying everybody, the chance of sheathing your sword like a boss happens way more than it used to.
Yeah, a convenient coincidence.
Which also adds to the epicness. I'm not sure if all of this was specifically designed this way to distract you from the blatantly obvious linear path through this place. You know, with the such difficult tasks of placing pots on switches and sniping gemstones with arrows as a way to open gates. But it all made me feel like such a boss. Probably because it was so easy. Kind of like a treat dungeon for making it this far. But the fun isn't over yet. Once you get to the top floor and kill the mini-boss Darknut, you acquire the Dominion Rod, which can possess and take control of statues. Massive statues, with really big hammers. And you kind of see where this is going. Let's just say if you didn't feel like a boss before, you certainly will while you're rearranging the furniture on your way back down to the ground level. Hopefully they just don't send us the bill. This may just be the Canadian in me, but I do like myself a good snow dungeon. Especially one as mysterious and secluded as the Snow Peak ruins. You first find this hidden place by following the Beastman Ghetto and his freshly caught stinky reekfish all the way up the side of an icy mountain to then snowboard back down the other side on a frozen leaf. So far, pretty good. The ruins introduces a couple of new characters that are not only around the dungeon as you do it, but are actually part of the dungeon itself and try to help you on your quest through it. In fact, Yeto found the mirror shard and is willing to give it to you. If that's not helpful, I don't know what is. In addition, Yeto is making fish soup for his sickly wife and lets you drink as much of it as you want in order to replenish your health. Also, nearly the very moment you enter the mansion, Yeto not only gives you the dungeon map, but tells you where to find the key to the bedroom, where the mirror shard you are looking for now resides. Alright.
Everything's coming up, Millhouse!
This will be over early. After you navigate the mansion and manage to find the chest marked on your map by Yetta, you open it up and find that there is no key, but instead a pumpkin. That's strange, but it's okay. The poor girl is just feeling a little under the weather and probably got mixed up. Things like this happen. Just go back and try again. And try again you do. After a quick apology from Yetta, she gives you another location and you're off to the backup spot. You get to the new chest, and this time you find cheese. Wait. Now you're starting to wonder,
What the fuck am I doing?
and why am I getting led on this wild goose chase for some simple groceries? But this isn't all just a waste of time, because that soup Yetta was making gets stronger with every ingredient that you bring him. Plus, it's more time to explore this epically mysterious place. So really, this is just kind of a win-win. The name's Mabus, and Twilight Princess's dungeons were some of the best in the entire franchise. When I had a hard time ranking which one of these temples was better from the top 5 up, you just know that Nintendo hit this game out of the park. Hopefully, future Zelda games will take note of these incredible dungeons and use them as a template, so that later, my dungeon ranking videos can be just as difficult as Twilight Princess's was to rank. Beats deciding on ones that all suck. So in the meantime and in between time, stay tuned for more.